Nagalagam Street in Grand Pass declared as an isolated area. COVID-19 infections in Sri Lanka continues to increase. 635 houses damaged by gale winds that blew across Puttlam. Electricity supply to 7,000 houses suspended after trees falling onto power lines. IMF warns the economy in Asia likely to suffer zero growth after 60 years. Ruling party wins South Korea election amid COVID-19.
Very good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime News on TV1, coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Let's take a look at those stories in detail. While curfew in 6 districts of the country, including Colombo, continues to be in effect, curfew in the remaining districts was lifted at 6 a.m. today. The Presidential Secretariat said that curfew will be reimposed in these districts at 4 this evening. This curfew will continue to be in effect until 6 a.m. on the 20th of this month. Curfew in the Colombo, Kalutara, Puttlam, Kandy and Jaffna districts will continue to be in effect until further notice.
Residents of Marvanella did not gather in the town this morning in large numbers. However, towards the afternoon, people began to arrive in the town. According to our correspondent, they adhered to safety regulations. Meanwhile, although curfew was lifted, many residents of Polgahavela did not visit the town. However, our correspondent noted that long lines of people were seen at banks and Satosa outlets. A very limited number of people were seen entering the Vaunia town today. All those who entered the town were disinfected by the Irachipilyakulam police. However, our correspondent noted that by this afternoon, long lines were seen at Satosa outlets and banks. People visited Anuradhapura today to purchase goods. Our correspondent said that people were keen on purchasing fertilizer and seeds. Long lines of people were seen at shops in Kurunegala town after the curfew was lifted. According to our correspondent, long lines were seen opposite Satosa stores as well. Meanwhile, a limited number of people were seen in the Ratnapura town today. According to our correspondent, long queues were seen at pawning centres in the town. Police were also deployed in the Ratnapura town.
The number of COVID-19 patients in the country has increased to 238 today. 5 more COVID-19 patients were identified yesterday. 4 of them were found at quarantine centres. Director General of Health Services, Dr. Anil Jasingh, has said that 2 of the people who tested positive were at the Palali quarantine centre in Jaffna. The other patient was identified while he was receiving treatment in hospital. Now, on a more positive note, 2 more people who tested positive for COVID-19 recovered today, bringing the total number of recoveries to 65. Director of the Medical Research Institute, Specialist Dr. Jairuan Bandara, said that the general public should be cautious of the spread of the virus during the next 2 months. Moving on in your local news, Nagalagama Street in Grand Pass has been declared as an isolated area.
Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva, the head of the task force on prevention of COVID-19, said that the decision to isolate this area was taken after a person in the area tested positive for COVID-19. Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva said that Nagalagam Street in Grand Pass was declared as an isolated area as of this morning. He added that a group residing on the Nagalagam Street was sent to quarantine centres yesterday as well. Although a large number of people have been directed into quarantine from the area already, there could still be people who maintained contact with the COVID-19 infected patient confirmed from the area. Therefore, the decision was taken to isolate the area to prevent further spread of the virus to the nearby areas and emphasized people should continue to follow social distancing guidelines. Coordinator of the Kalutara General Hospital, Dr. Krishanta Hirimutugoda, said that 60 patients from the Pannila and Chinese Fort villages were tested for COVID-19 today. He added that a group who had maintained close contact with the 16 people who tested positive for COVID-19 among the 219 who were sent to the Poonane quarantine centre were tested.
The KATTANKUDY base hospital in BATTICALOA has been modified to treat COVID-19 patients.
According to our correspondent, patients who were receiving treatment at the KATTANKUDY base hospital have been discharged. The hospital has been refurbished to facilitate 60 COVID-19 patients and 250 beds. The intensive care unit of the hospital has 10 beds. The hospital will also be vested with a special medical staff to treat COVID-19 patients.
The deadline for accepting the online applications of nursing practices has been postponed until the 15th of May. This was done due to the prevailing situation in the country. More information regarding this matter can be obtained from the official website of the Ministry of Health. Former Minister Rishad Badiuddin was summoned to the Criminal Investigations Department to provide a statement for further investigations on a land-related matter in Mannar. Police spokesperson SP Jalya Senaratne said the former minister is currently providing the statement at the CID. Rishad Badiuddin has provided a statement to the CID about the investigations yesterday as well. Moving on, in more local news, the Management Committee of the COVID-19 Healthcare and Social Security Fund met at the Presidential Secretariat.
The discussions focused on the steps that should be taken to fulfill the goal for which the President set up the fund. The committee is chaired by the Governor of the Central Bank, Professor W.D. Lakshman. The Chief Financial Officer of the Presidential Secretariat, Ravindra J. Vimalavira, holds the position of the Secretary of the Committee. Finance Secretary S.R. Artikala, Defence Secretary Major General Kamal Gunaratne, Secretary to the Ministry of State Administration S. Hettiarachi, Health Secretary Badrani Jayawardena and Acting IGP C.D. Vikramaratne are also members of this committee. Provision of medicine, medical research equipment, providing financial needs for health security, facilities including capacity building, ensuring the safety and well-being of employees of the health sector and essential service providers, and provision of basic needs of children, women, low-income families, senior citizens, differently abled persons and other vulnerable groups are among the main objectives of the fund. The fund is also tasked with the responsibility of coordination with the WHO, UNICEF, UNDP, the World Bank, Asian Development Bank and major development donor communities and agencies of Sri Lanka to raise funds. The fund continues to receive donations from both individuals and corporates.
The International Monetary Fund has warned that Asia's economic growth this year will grind to halt, for the first time in 60 years, as the coronavirus crisis takes an unprecedented toll on the region's service sector and major export destinations.
Start off with some opening remarks.
IMF said in a report on the Asia-Pacific region that Asia's economy is likely to suffer zero growth this year for the first time in 60 years. The IMF said while Asia is set to fare better than other regions suffering economic contractions, the projection is worse than the 4.7% average growth rates throughout the global financial crisis and the 1.3% increase during the Asian financial crisis in the late 1990s. The IMF expects a 7.6% expansion in Asian economic growth next year on the assumption that containment policies succeed, but added the outlook was highly uncertain. A coronavirus-driven plunge in US retail sales and factory production in Asia and the grim predictions by many financial institutions caused Asia's stocks to slide as the markets opened today.
Financial officials from the group of G20 major economies have agreed to suspend debt service payments for the world's poorest countries from the 1st of May until the end of the year, as a group of private creditors also backed offering debt relief.
Saudi Finance Minister Mohammed Al-Jadaan said the move to freeze both principal repayments and interest payments will free up more than $20 billion for the countries to spend on their health systems and help tackle the coronavirus pandemic. Saudi Arabia is hosting the G20 meetings this year. The debt standstill affects the world's poorest and least developed countries as defined by the World Bank and the United Nations, as long as they are current in their debt service payments to the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. The initiative is part of efforts to bolster the global economy economy amid the coronavirus outbreak, which is pushing the world into the deepest recession since the Great Depression of the 1930s. A source familiar with the agreement said it would cover $12 to $14 billion in bilateral debt service payments.
"635 houses suffered damages as a result of gale winds that blew across Puttalam. According to the Puttalam District Secretary Chandani Bandara S, divisional secretariats in the district have been impacted due to this. He further said that electricity supply to 7,000 households have been suspended as well.
This is the manner in which about 100 houses were damaged in the areas of Navagattegama, Velewawa, Thammennawati and Paranagahawawa. 245 houses in Saliyawawa, Neelabamma, Moonamalgaswawa and Pahalapulyankulama in the district were also damaged from the winds. It is reported that 10,000 families are suffering without electricity after trees falling onto power lines as a result of the winds. According to our correspondent, the power lines have been heavily damaged after this incident. A roof of a rice mill in Velewawa was dismantled and blown away due to the wind. According to the owner of the mill, thousands of rice kilos have been now drenched. Meanwhile, landslide warnings have been issued to the districts of Matara, Ratnapura, Kalutara and Kegol. According to the Met Department, showers exceeding 100 millimeters will occur across the island today as well.
COVID-19 case. The world has now reported 2,083,304 confirmed COVID-19 cases with 134,616 deaths. The total recoveries stand at 510,350. Meanwhile, China, which has eased several restrictions, has seen a slight decline in imported cases and a small uptick in local transmissions. The number of new local transmissions rose to 12 from 10, with 3 of those cases in Beijing, the first such infections in 3 weeks. Imported cases were down to 34, down for the 3rd consecutive day after the country implemented strict border measures. Also in international news, President Trump's decision to temporarily suspend payments to the World Health Organization in response to its handling of the coronavirus pandemic triggered international statements of support for the United Nations agency. Director General of the World Health Organization responded to this in a press briefing.
Today I'm instructing my administration to halt funding of the World Health Organization while a review is conducted to assess the World Health Organization's role in severely mismanaging and covering up the spread of the coronavirus.
We regret the decision of the President of the United States to order a halt in funding to the World Health Organization. With support from the people and government of the United States, WHO works to improve the health of many of the world's poorest and most vulnerable people. WHO is not only fighting COVID-19, we're also working to address polio, measles, malaria, Ebola, HIV, tuberculosis, malnutrition, cancer, diabetes, mental health, and many other diseases and conditions. We also work with countries to strengthen health systems and improve access to life-saving health services. WHO is reviewing the impact of our work of any withdrawal of US funding and will work with our partners to fill any financial gaps we face and to ensure our work continues uninterrupted.
The American Medical Association has called on US President Donald Trump to reconsider his decision to temporarily halt funding to the World Health Organization over its handling of the coronavirus pandemic.
The World Health Organization has purchased and distributed masks, the N95 mask. They have purchased and distributed test kits for countries. And certainly they are engaged in vaccine trials that are taking place around the globe. We believe that the president should reconsider his decision to halt funding for the World Health Organization.
Meanwhile, Melinda Gates, wife of Bill Gates, has announced an extra $150 million of funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to help speed up the development of treatments, vaccines and public health measures to tackle the new coronavirus outbreak. The Gates Foundation is the second largest donor to the WHO behind the United States. Melinda Gates said earlier that cutting WHO funding in a health crisis was as dangerous as it sounds.
The United States of America remains the country with the most number of COVID-19 cases, with 644,089 confirmed cases and 28,529 deaths. The United States has seen its highest daily death toll yet, with nearly 2,600 people with COVID-19 dying in just the past 24 hours. That's not just the country's highest number, but the highest daily toll of any other country worldwide. The Trump administration previously set May 1st as a possible date to reopen the nation, but the president said some states may return to normalcy earlier than others.
While we must remain vigilant, it is clear that our aggressive strategy is working, and very strongly working, I might add. The battle continues, but the data suggests that nationwide we have passed the peak on new cases. Hopefully that will continue, and we will continue to make great progress.
Against this backdrop, U.S. President Donald Trump called for the return of sports action in order to kickstart the flailing U.S. economy.
Today I spoke with the leaders of many of our nation's most renowned companies and organizations on how to achieve the full resurgence of the American economy. We want to have our sports leagues open. You want to watch sports. It's important. We miss sports. We miss everything. We want to get back.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to shut down Congress as he could fill vacancies in his administration without Senate confirmation, saying he was frustrated lawmakers were not in Washington to vote on his nominees for federal judgeships and other government positions.
If the House will not agree to that adjournment, I will exercise my constitutional authority to adjourn both chambers of Congress. The current practice of leaving town while conducting phony pro forma sessions is a dereliction of duty that the American people cannot afford during this crisis. It is a scam what they do. It's a scam, and everybody knows it, and it's been that way for a long time.
No U.S. president has ever used the authority included in the Constitution to adjourn both chambers of Congress if they cannot agree on a date to adjourn.
The party of South Korean President Moon Jae-in won a decisive victory in parliamentary elections.
South Korea was among the first countries with a major coronavirus outbreak to hold a national vote since the pandemic began. Safety and social distancing measures were put in place so the election could take place as scheduled. Moon's Democratic Party won 163 seats in 300-seat National Assembly. Moon's election victory is seen as a show of approval for handling of the coronavirus outbreak. It will give his government the largest majority in parliament. South Korea has seen since it held its first democratic election in 1987. South Korea has reported a total of 10,613 coronavirus cases, with 229 fatalities reported.
And some news from our neighboring country, India. Now, many believe Kerala has flattened the curve at a time when the infections is on the rise all over India.
The state has been alert and vigilant. It imposed a lockdown a day before the nationwide on the 25th of March. It did rigorous contact tracing using detailed route maps of people coming in from abroad. It set up COVID-19 care centers in all districts to accommodate outsiders who were stuck and had been advised to isolate. India has reported 12,370 coronavirus cases, with 422 fatalities reported.
Let's now take a look at some paintings Gammadda received under the initiative Gammadda Negitimu Sri Lanka.
Gammadda Negitimu Sri Lanka. Madda, Nagitimu, Sri Lanka.
And that's a wrap of Lunchtime News on TV1 for today. But before we go, the Gum at the Rise of Sri Lanka campaign has spread across social media, with Sri Lankans across the country and the world continuing to share their video recordings with a message of hope for a rising nation. We leave you this afternoon with some of the latest footage that was shared today. Take care and God bless.
Sanka badak atarin negative Sri Lanka. Hitanu idiriyama ekavanda hama negative Sri Lanka. Hetu idivana navaloka hamuwe negative Sri Lanka. Negative Sri Lanka. Negative Sri Lanka. Kisidana Guna Piripura Sri Lanka. Neran Bumia Rumaya Pagaira Kagamu Sri Lanka. Idiria Ganayak Mia Pasitua Rakaganda Lanka. Guru Devi Sadapa Diria Tibadu Pujaganda. Negative Sri Lanka. Sri Lankans now. Sri Lanka. Rise up Sri Lanka.
Gum Madda, Nagitimu, Sri Lanka.